Let's talk about the new Disney Plus MCU animated show by the name of EYES of Wakanda. So shout out to Disney for sending me over the early link to check out this series. So I figured I would watch an episode and immediately share my thoughts. So with that being said, full spoilers ahead. So this first episode was titled Into the Lion's Den, and we meet our main character by the name of Noni. So we open this episode in 1260 BC, and we immediately open with seeing the lion invading this island, and bodies are dropping left and right. From here we get to see the lion in action as he has his full Wakandan armor on, and he does like a Thanos moment where he takes out one of the soldiers with ease. From the first opening 5 minutes, this episode had me hooked. So after we get the opening, we meet our main character Noni, and we learn that she's a former member of the Dora Milaje. Now Noni is tasked with bringing in or eliminating the lion, who we find out was a respected warrior of Wakanda, but he had ambition that led him to leaving, and he also took some artifacts with him. Now we find out that the lion is building his own army. He's going to pose a threat to Wakanda. He must be stopped. Now the thing is, if Noni completes this task, she'll be welcomed back into the Dora Milaje. And what makes Noni special and makes her unique to this mission is she wasn't trained by the lion, so she's kind of unpredictable and he won't see her coming. Again, I didn't know too much going into this series, but I'm like, okay, I'm enjoying the story, I'm enjoying the world building and meeting these characters, and from here on out, we see Noni on the ship and she's undercover, and from this point on, it's just non-stop action to the end of the episode. At this point, we get a nice reminder of just how badass the Dora Milaje is as we see Noni taking on the lion's top warriors by herself. Now, like I said up top, we see some bodies dropping, but this next portion here, I did not anticipate the show to be as violent as it is. Now, by no means am I saying, oh, this is super ultra violent, but for a Disney Plus MCU animated show, we saw blood. We saw one of the warriors getting an axe in his head and dying, and again, I just did not expect this level of, I guess, maturity with this show. I definitely enjoyed the animation during this action sequences because it had this cool way of showing the fluid dynamics in the action scenes, and again, it did not shy away from the violent action and seeing characters dying left and right, and again, there was blood on screen. Now, the main fight that we get with Noni and the lion was definitely a standout. Seeing him using the Wakandan artifacts and her adapting to his fighting style and ultimately coming up on top was really satisfying to watch. Now, before the lion is defeated by ultimately taking out himself, he tells Noni about how he was sent out as a war dog, which is something we know from the first Black Panther because Nakia was a war dog. We end the episode with Noni thinking that she failed her mission, but the leader of the Dora Milaje lets her know that she didn't fail her mission because ultimately the goal was to eliminate the lion, which we saw her do. And at the end, we see Noni does not want to return to Dora Milaje. Instead, she wants to use her skills to go out to be a war dog to retrieve the rest of the artifacts that have been taken from Wakanda. Which, speaking of, going back to the connections of the MCU because this show is canon, was that axe that the lion was using, was that the same axe that Killmonger had in the first Black Panther? Overall, I really enjoyed this premiere episode. I like how we get this insight of like the beginnings of the war dog and how someone like the lion sees the world for what it is, and how we can see someone like him being set on this path of like having ultimate power, but he wants to do right by his people in a way, but he's also doing it in a really negative way by killing people and having control, which kind of reminded me of Killmonger. I mean, the lion even decided to go out very similar to Killmonger. So I believe the next 3 episodes are like anthology style. We're going to meet a new warrior each episode, which is interesting. I hope we get to see Noni again because I really like that character. But again, a really solid episode. I am interested to see what MCU connections make their way into these episodes because again, this show is canon to the MCU. So that's going to be the end of my breakdown of episode 1 of EYES of Wakanda. A really solid premiere episode. I'm excited to see what the rest of this series has to offer. So let me know in the comments, what did you all think of this first episode? Favorite moment? What were some Easter eggs you all called out? Let me know in the comments below. And like I said up top, I'm going to watch these episodes, share my thoughts right after, so stay tuned for my episode 2 breakdown. Alright, just got done watching episode 2 of EYES of Wakanda, which was titled Legends and Lies. Let's talk about it. Full spoilers ahead. Now, this one was a little bit of a slower paced episode. It was more character focused and it had a little bit more emotion showing this friendship between 2 warriors. We start off this episode in Greece where we meet Odysseus and his army making an attack on the Trojans. Now, this is where we meet Greek legend Achilles as he's going to be used as a secret weapon under this attack. Now, a part of Achilles' crew is a warrior by the name of Memnon, who we find out is on a mission of his own to recover a stolen Wakandan artifact. Now for some, this is where the episode might slow down, but I actually liked all this character stuff. We see Memnon and Achilles and their men have to retreat, and this is where we see overnight, we see Memnon using the Wakandan technology to heal himself, which is just a reminder to show us that they have such advanced technology even back then. We get this really cool moment of friendship where we see Achilles kind of revealing himself and talking about how he feels his legacy will just be remembered as someone to just be surrounded by death and has nothing to show for it, but we see his friend Memnon lifts him up with words of encouragement. Again, to me, this was a really important scene because it kind of fills in the gaps. We get to see this friendship, we get to see the trust they have in one another, and during all this, Odysseus comes up with a surprise attack plan to build this large Trojan horse as a surprise gift, and all while that's happening, we see Memnon off to the side giving an update to Wakanda on his status on getting back that artifact, but at the same time, we see there's some tension. There's some members of the group that believe that Memnon is a spy. Now, their attack plan is going accordingly for a bit, but ultimately they get caught, and this is where we get the action of the episode. Now, as the battle is happening, we see Memnon making his way to his mission, and we see Achilles sees him leaving his brothers in arms. Now, remembering Memnon's mission is to get the artifact back, which he does. He takes it from, I believe, the king and queen, and he lets them escape with their lives, but unfortunately, Achilles sees them, and he declares him a spy, and we see these two friends are now fighting. Now, fueled with rage and feeling betrayed, we see Achilles attempts to destroy the artifact, but he fails in doing so, as Memnon bursts out this Wakandan tech Winter Soldier metal arm, and he doesn't want to fight his friend, but he has to, or else he's gonna die. Again, not a ton of action in this episode, but this was a pretty intense fight, as we see Memnon pulls out the classic move by cutting Achilles' tendon and ultimately kills him, and we have this emotional goodbye as Memnon tells him that everything they experienced wasn't a lie and they were truly friends. As we end the episode, we fast forward 6 months later where we see Baikai, and here's where we see the older version of Noni, who we find out that she's now the director of the War Dogs. Yet again, we get a nice emotional scene and a kind of a heart-to-heart conversation between Baikai as she shares the sacrifices they have to make for Wakanda and how it affects him. He tells her that he feels more comfortable in the outside world than he does in actually being in Wakanda. As we see him heading off to continue his missions, but he sets forth on this search for something that he's missing inside. I'll be honest, man, I'm 2 for 2 with this show so far. I thought this episode, again, focused more on the emotional side of being a war dog, but also showing the friendship and the sacrifices made by war dogs and their loyalty to Wakanda and how it can be looked at from an outside perspective of being seen as betrayal. Again, I thought this was a really solid episode. Again, not as much action, but when we did get the action, it was pretty solid. But it was great to see Noni again and see her as the director of the War Dogs. And again, I'm liking these characters. I'm liking the story. These 30 minutes, even though they go by pretty fast, they tack on a lot of stuff. Again, a lot of emotional depth with this episode. So those are my thoughts on episode 2. Again, I'm 2 for 2 for the show. I'm about to press play on episode 3 and hope it continues the trend of good episodes. But that's my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. What did you like? What did you love? What were some Easter eggs you all caught? Which episode do you like more between 1 and 2? Let's talk about it in the comments below. And as always, consider subscribing and following for more.